Hi, I'm Adam Winch with Defenders USA. We're in the western Colorado area where you ladies would have been coming to for a girl and a gun, had that not been postponed for this year. So looking forward to either meeting you next year or at the Cameo complex for a girl and a gun, or maybe throughout the year if you decide to come do some training with us. Anyways, I'm going to be talking about 4 defensive options that we have in everyday life. Now, I've put it in this poorly drawn house, okay? But this house here, what I may do is I may bring the camera in closer so you can see it just for a second so you have an idea where I'm going with this. But if you notice, if there's lines that go through, such as there, that's a doorway. But if there's small lines that just barely go in, that's, say, a window. So we have a front door there, there's a living room there, we have a kitchen up top, we have a master bedroom, a bathroom, laundry, different bedrooms, just different rooms throughout the house. And then, of course, we're going to look at this right here, which are the basic defensive options that you have if something happens, and we're going to put this in your home. But once again, I want to remind you that this works in any real setting that you're in. Get the camera set. In any setting. It could work in your home, but it could also work just as well in your office, the church, your mall, your salon, really anywhere you go. In fact, it could happen in the public areas, the public arena. You can use these 4 basic options. But just for simplicity, let's put it in this box of a house. Okay, so let's say this is either your castle, your single wide, your apartment, your something, but I just quickly drew this up. The dotted lines are, say, furniture of some type. So like a master bedroom here, which we have the master bed. We have a back porch area that goes back this way, a back porch back here, a front door there, and then just basic bedrooms. So let's just talk our basic defensive options. Let's say that you're at home and you're sound asleep in bed. You're snoring, drooling, whatever it is you're doing. It's 2:30 in the morning. And all of a sudden you hear boom, the house shakes or whatever it may be, and you hear somebody obviously break through your front door, right? All you know is you're home alone. Let's say there's nobody else living in this house right here with you. It's you and you by yourself, okay? Somebody apparently, or very clearly, according to what you sense at the time, somebody has kicked in your front door and now they've come into your living room from the front, okay? So what would you do? What are some of the options that you could have here? Well, let's just say again, once again, you're living by yourself in this case. There's nobody else in this house here. So one of the defensive options you could do is, I'm going to try to write it down here, is simply move to the threat, right? Meaning you could move, sorry for my bad writing, you could move to the unknown. You don't know what's going on out there, but maybe you decide you grab your gun, right? You grab your handgun. In fact, I think I've got one around here somewhere. I put a blue gun down. Here you go. Hold on. Let's say you've grabbed your handgun and somebody's kicked in your door. You've grabbed your modern telecommunication device, say your cell phone, because hopefully you're having that thing charged right there by your bed. Right? You grab your handgun because maybe you have it safe beside the bed. If you live by yourself, maybe the handgun's out. I mean, there's different ways to stage these handguns to set these up, right? And then hopefully, too, on top of grabbing your modern communication device, your cell phone, and grabbing your handgun, maybe you're also grabbing a flashlight of some type, right? Because what are some of your jobs? If you've got to defend yourself within your home and you're going to move to the threat, right? One of the things we've got to do is we've got to be able to shoot, move, and communicate. Or we could say fight, move, and communicate. So this is helping us fight, this blue gun here, right? This helps us see so we can fight, so we don't hurt maybe somebody that's come into our door that maybe we shouldn't shoot for some reason. And then also your modern communication device, your cell phone. I'd use that one right there, but that's my cell phone, it's recording. So maybe you got to find a way to put that on speaker while it calls 911. And you can attach your body, put in your clothing somewhere, however you do that. And now you can, if you've learned how to use a flashlight with a handgun, maybe you can clear your own home and move to the threat. Now, so if that's the case, if we're moving to the threat, notice you got to grab all your stuff, jump out of bed, go all the way down the hall here, and maybe, right? Boom. And we start shooting and fighting here. First of all, it is a legal option. Now in the state of Colorado, I won't get into Colorado laws for the defense of life within the home because we're all coming from different states and your laws may be slightly different than Colorado. Of course, so you need to know the laws in your home. In the state of Colorado, that would absolutely be a correct thing that you could do legally. Okay, I'm not saying it's the best thing, but you could legally do so, right? It fits the criteria. You can move to the threat in this case. But honestly, is it the best idea? Think of it this way. If you've jumped out of your bed, got your handgun, got your light, or maybe even your handgun has a light on it, right? This is one of the lights that I carry on my gun so that I've got this. Of course, it's kind of a secondary light. I also use a handheld, but that way I have a lot of light here. But you grab your handgun, your cell phone, your flashlight, and you move to the threat. The problem with that is this, or the problem is this. When you move to this, you're going to an unknown situation. Yeah, you might know your own home. You might know very, very well, right? You can walk through this in the dark and not stub your toes because you know the placement and the movement of your home. But think about this. Do you know who this person is, guy or girl? Do you know his or her skills, right? Could they be a ninja, right? Do you know their firepower? Could this person have a whole lot of firepower and maybe they've got a ton of training because maybe they just have a ton of training? And do you want to aggress on somebody that you know nothing about? I mean, think about this. Could it even be 2 or 3 people or 4 who've gone into your home? We know nothing about this, right? Only thing we know at the time when our doors kicked in at 2:30 in the morning or so is our bedroom, right? That's all we know at this point in time. If we rush out here, all Rambo-ish, and go to the threat, which you can legally do, at least in Colorado, you're placing yourself in an unknown. This could be a ninja. It could be 5 of them. They could have a ton of training, a ton of firepower. Maybe they know how to fight really well. We know nothing about this. So I'm not saying it's a legally bad idea. It's legally okay. But if you're in here by yourself, though it's an option you can do to move to the threat, I'm going to suggest to you in this case, in this particular situation, why? There'd be no reason to move to the threat, right? It is an option. There is a time and a place to do this. But in this case, in this one particular, I wouldn't suggest moving to the threat. There's more considerations, but I'm trying to make this video a bit short. Okay, so next, let's say another option that you could go through here would be to, could we say it this way? And I'll write it here, bunker in place. Maybe you simply bunker in place so that you can hide somewhere within your home, forcing them to come to you and really maybe stay out of a gunfight you don't want to get into. So in this case, if you're going to do this, where would you bunker in place? When I ask students this, oftentimes they say, well, the closet. Or I'll jump out of my bed and I'll hide on the side of the bed, right? Closet, bed seems to be about the general, when you talk to folks, that seems to be some of the places where that tends to be. Let me ask you about this. If you run to your closet, you grab your gun, your flashlight, your modern telecommunication device, your 911 call, right? And you run into the closet, even if you shut that door, does that really give you a lot of defensive options? I mean, really, when you think about it, you put yourself in a closet. You got a whole bunch of stuff within the closet. You know, clothes and stuff and shoes. And I mean, there's a lot of things in our closets, even this bigger walk-in closet here. And if you shut that door especially, notice all you've done is put yourself in a phone booth, right? You've tied yourself into a small area to where if that bad guy comes up to that door, you don't know what's going to happen until they come through that door, or suddenly they're on the inside, or they see you from the outside where they're behind cover, and now suddenly you're fighting in a tight space. Furthermore, there's several things that you need at all times, right, when it comes to a defensive situation. One, right, I call it your 4 friends. Your 4 friends are this: 1, time, distance, barriers, and an exit. Time, distance, barriers, and an exit. Notice, if you run here and barricade yourself into this closet here, you give yourself little reaction time. If the bad guy comes in, suddenly you're in such tight compressed time spaces that you have little you can do to decide on what you're going to do. 2, you have very little distance, right? And think about your closet. Even if you have a walk-in closet, if you step into that walk-in closet and bad guy steps through that door of that closet, even if you have a gun, suddenly you're in close quarters, if not almost in contact with that person. And do you really want to fight somebody in close contact, right? So there's one of the other things that's been taken away. And then barriers. Do you have any barriers in the closet? Besides maybe this wall here or this wall here as dirt bags come through your doorway, right? Your only barrier is right here. We have nothing in there that can, when I say barrier, think of cover. And cover is something that can stop, impede, or misdirect an incoming bullet, an incoming round, right? So think hard things, right? And sheetrock walls may not always stop, impede, misdirect an incoming round. And if they get in that door and you two engage in a gunfight right there, or you have to shoot right there, and maybe they even have a gun, if they start shooting, you've got nothing to hide behind that gives you cover, meaning it stop, impedes, or misdirect the round that they might shoot at you. So it takes away barriers too. And furthermore, exit. You have no exit, right? If bad things happen here, you have nowhere to go. The only way to get out of this is to go through those bad guys or to go back out in an area that's now an unknown because you've left your bedroom for a while, to go back out into an unknown because you have no primary exits from that closet. So I'd tell you that closet's a bad idea. All right, but let's come over here. Let's say because I have students who say, well, I'd hide behind the bed. All right, if you hide behind that bed, think about the beds most of you have, or most of us have. Unless you've got the 1980s water bed, is that bed, the mattress that you have, is it cover? Meaning, if bad guy comes to your door and you start exchanging rounds at each other, if they shoot at you, could the mattress stop, impede, or misdirect an incoming bullet? No, that bullet's going to go right through, and probably even on your 1980s water bed, right? Because we used to have them too, right, in the 80s. But I mean, even then, it's possibly not going to stop an incoming bullet they shoot at you. And most of us just have general mattresses, air mattresses, something like that, standard mattress, and bullets just go right through them, right? So therefore, I'd tell you that though it gives you time because you're further away to that door, it gives you some time compared to that closet. It gives you some distance because you're further away from that door if we're saying this is your setup. And it doesn't give you much of a barrier because when we talk barriers, we're talking stop, impede, misdirect round. We're talking cover, okay? Though that's concealment, you can hide behind it. It's not cover from incoming rounds. And it gives you no exits, right? Or at least it might be hard to get out this window. It is an exit. It might be hard to get out this window. It is an exit, but it's not an easy exit, especially if it's colder or it's heavier glass and you don't have it open, something like that. Though you might be able to smash your way through this window or open the window. If you open it, it makes noise and it might alert bad people who are searching for you or going through your home. So I'm not saying, though it's an exit, it's not probably the best exit. So notice, it didn't give us all 4 of those components, okay? So let's go back to bunker in place. Where would be a probably better place to bunker in place if you need to? I would suggest to you that if you're going to bunker in place, you're going to barricade in place in this, say in this master bedroom, right? Preferably if you can get that door shut and locked, get the door shut and locked. You may not be able to, you may not have time, okay? As a former police officer, I've seen a lot of things where people broke into the house and they didn't even have time to get to locking doors. They didn't have time to go hide somewhere. But let's say you have time. If you have time, shucks, go lock the door. Even not only go lock the door, I'd suggest to you that in your bedrooms and other places around the house, you should have a doorstop. So that when you shut that door, you can shove a doorstop, whether it's a wooden, just a sliced piece of wood, right? Or it's a rubber doorstop. Or I don't know, take your stiletto or somebody's shoe and shove it under the door so that it keeps the door from opening in. Now think about this. Most bedroom doors, if you're on the inside, a bedroom door opens inward. So if you can shut the door, lock the door if your door is that way, and also shove something under there to further secure the door, that's a good idea because you've created a better barrier, okay? So if you're going to go hide in this room, now let's say that these dotted things are furniture. Let's say it's grandma's old oak whatever that you inherited from her, the big dresser, something like that, or maybe it's a steel cabinet or something like that, I don't know. So let's say that you go hide behind something. Now, So you've moved to cover. Maybe you grab your gun, your flashlight, your cell phone, and maybe you move to here after you've locked the door, if you get the chance. You may not have the chance. But maybe you move to here, right? Now notice something. We have said, forgive me as I try to redraw this, we've said this is basically the doorway here, okay? Now, think about this. If you weren't able to shut or even lock the door, pin the door, something like that, think about the human eye. If bad guy gets this door and they're able to come into this bedroom, now notice something. The human eye is naturally drawn to certain paths, all right? When you walk through a doorway, there's always a place your eye is naturally drawn to. In this case, I would say the average bad guys, they come down this hallway and go through here. They're probably going to be going more this way than straight. So if they're this way, their eyes tend to go about like this and tend to go about like this. Notice, it tends to go there first before their head swings and looks one way or the other. So if you're going to hide offline or hide from people, one, you want to be behind some type of some type of cover, meaning stop, impede, or misdirect around. Right? So let's say you've moved offline over here behind this steel or oak or whatever that is, that hard piece. Or maybe even you moved and you hid, let's say there's a dresser here, maybe you hid over here at a dresser there. Now notice, as bad guy goes through the door, you would be offline from their initial sight. If bad guy comes to the door, you're sort of kind of offline from their sight and you're behind cover concealment, right? I saw there was a video on a girl and a gun that talked about barricades. Luann, I think, did that. I haven't seen it yet. I want to. And hopefully she was talking, I'm sure she was talking about this stuff. I'm sure she's really good at this. So maybe you're using a barricade too as your cover. So now here's the idea of understanding how the human eyes and the human naturally acts. Think about your own bedrooms. When you go into your bedroom, or let's say you've invited somebody over for the day, and they got to go to the restroom or something, you point them down the hall past your master bedroom, and you say, okay, it's down the hall. So past the master bedroom. So you tell them where to go. As they go down the hallway, right, those people probably do what I do when I go to somebody else's house. If I go past their bedroom, I tend to look inside, and as I go past, I'm like, how do those people live, right? I want to see. How do they live? What do they live like? What's it really like in their private areas, right? We just sneak on by and kind of glance in. When you go past a door and where somebody would glance in, normally most people have made that the fancy part of the room, where the eye is naturally drawn to, right? If you were to go past this hallway and looked in, this is probably where you got the fancy stuff. It looks good. But over here in the corner where people can't easily see it, now we got the dirty laundry, the stuff on the floor, the whatever, right? What I'm trying to say is this. We instinctually make where the human eye is drawn to in the rooms that we go into, where the human eye is drawn to, we tend to make that nice. Why? Because that's what people see first. Or if they pass that doorway and they glance in, that's what people see. Because the eye's drawn to it. Same thing happens to bad guys. As they go through doorways, they look in their normal plane of view where the eye is naturally drawn to first, before they look this way or before they look this way. So the idea is this. You want to hide yourself behind some kind of cover that's offline from where the human eye is naturally drawn to when somebody first goes into that room. I would suggest, though this is behind cover, it's not terribly offline, but it's somewhat. I'd say this is way offline. But here's the problems. If you're hiding over here with your gun and everything else, yes, you have some time because you're further away from the door. You have a little bit more time to react than that closet. Yes, you have some distance because it's not the same tightness of that closet. You have a little bit of distance between you and the bad guy, right? Time and distance allow you to do a lot more things, to react better, to, you name it, make better decisions. It has a great barrier. We're saying there's a big old, honking piece of oak furniture there. But you don't have a good exit, right? You don't have the great exit to maybe get out that window right there. And for you to get all the way out this back door here, the sliding glass doors, the French doors on the back porch there, for you to get out there, well, you've got to cross over where the eye is naturally drawn to or where maybe the bad guy has gone into in the first place. So it's not the best idea. I would say maybe here is probably your best idea, right? You have exits, meaning you could dump into the bathroom if you had to, probably not a good idea, Or better yet, you can just go out the back door. On top of that, you're behind some type of furniture, hardened furniture that's there. And that gives you a good barrier, right? Some type of cover, meaning it can stop, impede, misdirect a round that's maybe be shot at you from the doorway or as somebody comes in. And it certainly gives you distance, right? Distance to the door. So notice, in the bedroom, in this little fictional setup, right, you get in this spot, the best spot, it's slightly offline from their human eyes naturally drawn to first. You have time, distance, barriers, and exit there, right? In fact, you have two exits. One, you can go to the bathroom if you had to. Not the greatest idea, but it's another barrier. Or if you had to, better yet, you could go out the back door. Okay, so just some thoughts, right? If you're going to barricade in place or bunker in place, whatever you want to call it, go to your safe spot in the home, right? The four main friends you want to look for, think about ahead of time, is time, distance, barriers, and exit. I've had people who've come to courses where we've gone through this and we've talked about their home setup, right? We do what we call if-then drills. If people come in this door, then I'll do this. But if they come in that door, then I'll do this. But if I'm in this location of my house and they kick in this door, I'll do this. But if it happens this way, then I'll do that. And in part of their if-then drills, as we've done that, I've had people go back and think about their own homes, right? Where would you possibly be in the middle of the day if somebody came in your home? Then where would you go? What would you do? What would be the points you'd fight from? Where's your best place to get time, distance, barriers, and exit if you're going to bunker in place? It could be any in here. Where would it be? In your own bedroom. And I've had people go home, and as they've thought through how they live their lives, the places they generally stay within their home. And if bad people came in, they sit there and go, okay, they'll most likely come through my front door. If they don't come through my front door, they're probably going to come through the kitchen door, maybe the garage door. Or, they kind of surmise where bad guys most likely would come from if they were in their bedrooms. And they go home and they rearrange their furniture and they look at it now from a defensive aspect. Because they've sat there and figured out, okay, if bad things are happening, this is where I need to go, or this is where we need to instruct my family to go. We need to talk through this plan ahead of time. If this happens, then we'll do this. And they prepare this and they set up their home more defensively. And you can still do that and make your home all pretty and nice and everything else, aesthetically pleasing, while you still set it up for defense even within the home. So remember, time, distance, barriers, exit. If you're going to bunker in place, where do you go? All right? So that's one of the other options. Okay? Another option would be to simply, could we say this, flee? Or could we just say run away? Run away. Just run away. Remember, in this case, it was you living there by yourself, right? The cat doesn't live with you. The dog doesn't. The husband, the wife, the kids, the grandma. Nobody lives with you. It's you by yourself. If people keep kicking your front door, and you take your body and you run out the back door, you flee, you run away. What's your house? Your house is just stuff, isn't it? It's just property. Who cares? We can have the house. Big deal. You can buy a new one. Or maybe call the police, and the police will show up and take care of it, and you can have your house back. Right? Though we have the right in Colorado, some states are slightly different than us, though we have the right in Colorado to move to the threat that's come into our home without our permission, all sorts of legal stuff there, and engage it there, why in this case? You're by yourself. Why move to the threat? Why not just run away? Why protect this empty box of a house and all the stuff in it, because it's all just stuff? Why protect that with your life? It's not worth it. Why not just go away? So if you do go away, how do we go away? When we run away. Think about this. You grab your flashlight, your gun, your cell phone, and you run out the house, right? Maybe you go out a window, or maybe you run out this back door right here. How fast should you go? I mean, should you just run? Or can we say this? We only move as fast as we can identify and engage targets. Meaning, if a bad guy suddenly pops up in your view and your vision, we only move as fast as we can identify and engage. Meaning this, instead of just running out all higgly-piggly, right? When you think about this, bad guys, when they tend to kick in doors of a home, oftentimes when you look at the stats of this, Mr. Bad Guy has also left a friend out here who's watching maybe this side of the house. And maybe Mr. and Mrs. Bad Guys have left a friend who's watching here. We have a lookout. Whether it's one side, the other, or something, there's a lookout. Could you run into them? And now get yourself into a gunfight, a kidnap situation, maybe get killed, assaulted, something like that, simply because we ran in blind panic. We're in the gun world. We can't do things in blind panic. We have to constantly be thoughtful about everything we do, right? We've got to take our time, fast sometimes, but we've got to take our time and be thoughtful. We've got to process information. So the speed with which we move with all of our stuff is only as fast as if you have to, you could stop and engage a threat if you had to, right? We want to get ourselves away from these bad people, so we leave the box of the house. But we've got to move, some people call it tactically. We've got to move thoughtfully. Can I say it that? Sometimes it gets old hearing the word tactical in the gun world, right? We've got to move thoughtfully as we go through this. We've got to move quietly, and we've got to be able to, if we see a threat or believe we have a threat, remember to stay behind cover concealment if we can. If not, be able to engage the threat, but we've got to see what we're engaging. We can't just engage the shadow of a human being. We've got to make sure that, okay, that's maybe a bad guy. Maybe they're here for bad things. Or, hey, wait a minute, something. We've got to be able to identify what we do. We've got to move in a sense that keeps us also safe. And if that means you move slow, because for you, maybe shooting while you're moving is a hard thing for you, or maybe moving slowly to be able to identify it is better for you based on your skill, your training, great. We can only move as fast as we can identify and engage things if we have to. And oftentimes that means you've got to go slower than most people think. You see it in the movies all the time. Bad people are running, or people are running away from the bad guy, and they're just running flat out. And they stumble into somebody else, right? Maybe some. Why? Because they're not taking the time. Yeah, you got to get away quickly, but you can only do so as quickly as you can thoughtfully process information and engage, okay? So just some of the ideas there. Going through this kind of quickly, okay? So we can flee or run away. So notice, so far our options are move to a threat, bunker in place, or we could flee or just run away. Again, if we're going to run away, thoughtful, right? We got to be able to process information. What would be another option? Notice we got a fourth option here. Let's change the situation a little bit. Now, I know we got a lot of drawings on the board, but let's change it this. Let's say now maybe there's a family member, kids, I don't know, somebody in another room. Maybe this room here, right? The mother-in-law has come to visit, that old battle axe, right? Or the father-in-law, that grumpy old boy. Or maybe the husband, the wife, the whomever is at home also. And they're snoring, drooling, slumbering, farting in bed at night just like you are, right? And suddenly, boom, bad guy kicks the door in. Or bad guys, we don't know. Now, if you just jumped up and ran out the house, you'd probably have to live with the idea that you left all these other people. And honestly, I don't suspect, because you don't see this very often in the gun world, I don't suspect anybody with a girl and a gun is the person who's going to abandon other people. We just don't tend to do that in the gun world. We tend to have a moral compass, and we tend to be defenders, right? My company's called Defenders USA. We're defenders of life, right? We tend to be. I'd bet you everybody within a girl and a gun are defenders, mentally, emotionally here. So I'm going to bet you that whole flee and run away thing is suddenly no longer an option because you have other people in the house that maybe you need to defend. So could I suggest the option is this? Maybe now we do a combo, I'll just put it that way, or a combination of all three of these, right? Maybe you sit there and go, okay, I'm better with a gun, hubby or wife or whoever it is, I'll move to the threat. While you, sir, ma'am, whatever, love, darling, while you go round everybody up, right? And then we'll bunker in place, or you round everybody up, while I move to the threat, and then we'll run out the back door. Or maybe because your other person who's sleeping in that bed with you, your spouse, your significant other, maybe they've got some training too, right? Maybe they're good at this too. And maybe both of you go, not my house, not me, not my people. And you go, you know what? I'm going to defend life within here. So maybe you both gather up your stuff, your cell phones, your flashlights, your guns, and maybe you both move to the threat. But maybe you've learned how to move as a team. Maybe one takes one side, one takes the other. Maybe one goes far, one goes near. Maybe you both slice the pie on this. Or maybe we go up to the last known position. Maybe you go up to the last known position where human life is at, right? Remember, grandpa or grandma or somebody's here, and you hold behind the cover of the door jamb down the hallway while the other person maybe rouses them up from bed, gets them out. Then they come back to here with grandma or whoever it is. While you move back too, we rouse these people up, and now you move as a group back outside. Or maybe you gather everybody up and you bring them back to here and you bunker in place here. I don't know. There's a lot of different combinations. There's many different ways we could do this. And I mean, it's somewhat situationally dependent. But basically, despite all the scribbling on here, and I do apologize for that, but basically the idea is this, and this applies anywhere you go, your church, your mall, the parking lot somewhere, your home. Your basic defensive options anywhere in life is really you can move to the threat. There is a time and a place to move to the threat. There is a time and a place, right? We should talk about kind of the thought of what you could do, what you should do, and what you must do. There is a time and a place you could move to the threat, but it's probably not the best idea, right? It's a active shooter in a mall or a church somewhere. Maybe it's not the best idea. Maybe it's time for you to gather up you and yours and get yourself out of there while you protect yourself as you move away. Right? You could do that. Maybe you should do that. Maybe there's so much going on that you can tell based on the situation, things that are happening, you're going, I need to move to that threat. Right? And there's also a time where you're like, I have no choice in here. If I don't move to the threat, my own could lose lives, or people I don't want to lose lives could lose lives, or you have just a general love for your fellow human being. You go, it's just me. I must. Right? Should, must. I mean, you got to make some decisions here. This is a whole long conversation we're not going to get into very far. Okay? Or maybe you could just bunker in place, right? It's the mall. Maybe you decide to duck in the back room of a shoe closet somewhere, hopefully being able to hold on to close by time, distance barriers, exits, right? Or maybe the back aisles of that place with a back door that you could get out, and you bunker in place there while the stuff is going on. You decide if they come through that door and they've got guns, they're doing bad things to people, it's not the police or a civilian defender who's also to decide to defend life, I will engage that so I protect those within that store myself, right? And you could bunker in place. Or maybe you just run away, right? Why jump into a gunfight if you don't need to? Right? I mean, why not just, even if you have your gun with you because you are concealed carrying, maybe you just exfil, you leave the place where it's happening, or maybe you do a combination of both. You what we call bounding overwatch. Maybe you, in a sense, you move from one spot you're at to here, and you hold for a second, look for the better exits that you can go to. Then you move to here, looking for another escape route, people you can gather up. Maybe you move to here, find a few more things to do, help people out, then move to here, and then ultimately, I mean, there's just a combination of things you can do here. But the basic 4 defensive options in most defensive situations, right, is move to the threat, bunker in place, flee or run away, or do some combination thereof. So I know it's a lot of scribble. I hope you can see it, and I hope this made some kind of sense, but I just want to talk about defensive options, especially in buildings, but it works anywhere in life, that you can employ if something bad were to happen. So anyways, again, Adam Winch with Defenders USA in Western Colorado, and sure wish you guys were able to be out here for a Girl and a Gun conference, Elevate 2020, but at least we're able to do some of this stuff, and I hope it was a help to you. Thanks so much for your time, and take care.